CDL just had some map changes, which means ranked play is going to have some map changes as well. And one of those map changes were 6 stars coming in for Hardpoint and also Search and Destroy. So in this video, we are going to be breaking down 6-star Hardpoint from Hardpoint spawns all the way down to callouts and stuff, so you know what you're doing on S&D as well. Let's get into it. First, we're going to be going over callouts on 6-star in general. And you can see right now we're on this side of the TAC map right here. And this is all of the mini-map of 6-star in general of the entire map. So right now we are on the elevator side of the map, and you can see that there are elevators right here. So what Atlanta FaZe calls this area of the map is going to be elevators or back elevators. And once you move away from the back elevators and you go towards the right side, there is 2 ways that you can go. You can cut that way to the left, or you can go through this hallway over here to the right. And what we're going to call this hallway to the right is long. And if you cut to the left into this room right here, we are going to be calling this room lights. And as you push through the long hallway and you get over to this area of the map right here, which if you want to see where we are on the TAC map now, we are on the right side of the map over on this side. This is going to be called statue. And instead of going through the statue cut, you can also go through the low right here, which is going to be called bridge. And as you keep pushing forward onto the map, you're going to see that this area right here is going to be P4. This is the 4th hard point of the rotation. And going through here, which is going to be the left side, is going to be called drop. So again, you have drop right here. And if you drop through, you have P4. And then this building right here, the security office building, we are going to be calling it white. And you can see this is another different angle of the security office, or what we are calling white. We have bottom white right here. And this is going to be the top white window area over here, and obviously top kitchen if you really need to be specific. Now, as you push past white, you can kind of run through this alleyway over here, and into this area right here is going to be called gold. It is a gold room. Very, very simple. Then if you push past the gold room, you're going to have this back wooden area right now, which a fire pit is going to be in the middle of it. And that is going to be called back fire pit. And then to the right of fire pit, you're going to have this L cut back here. We're going to call this back useless just because it's not used very often compared to some other spots on the map. And then after back useless, we're going to have this area right here. This is going to be called water, or just the fountain, just because it's kind of like the back secret thing, which is going to be right there. In a second, we'll get there. And then if you keep kind of going around right here, this little L stairway right there, we're going to be calling this L stairs just because it's kind of near P2. This pool right here is going to be on the side of P2. P2 is going to be in there, but on the side of P2, we are calling this mini because it's just basically a mini pool. That's just kind of what us and the FaZe guys decided to call this. So we're calling this mini. And then in here is going to be called P2 because it's the 2nd hard point of the rotation. And then inside of P2, you have this room right here. We're going to call this secret. This is going to be vent. And then once you push past P2, we're going to have this front area right here. This is going to be called showers. This area will be P5 or pool. This will be the pool bar or the hut. Pushing past all of that, you have these 2 curves right here. We are calling these curves or curve. And then these stairways right here, this stairwell is going to be the open stairs. So you have curve, open stairs. Then as we're getting closer to P3, we're going to call this stairway right here the wooden stairs, or just wood. So they're on wood, obviously going towards P3. And then getting closer to P3 as well, this hop up right here, we're just calling this the P3 hop up. Then this general area is going to be P3 because this is the 3rd hard point rotation, or the 3rd hill in the hard point rotation. So the P3 is right here. The P3 bar, or the head glitch, the bar heady is going to be in there. And then we're going to continue on into lights, which we've already been. And now if we go towards the middle of the map, we're going to have the P1 area of the map. The P1 is going to be in the center. But right here, we're going to call this DJ just because there's a bunch of music playing right there. And this is obviously going to be a hot spot when it comes to just the area of P1. And outside of P1, we're going to have this area right here. This is going to call balcony. We're going to call this balk. And then in here, people are calling this blue, and or we are calling this lobby. And sometimes we even call it tank because there's a fish tank in there. Personally, I think lobby is probably going to be the one that we get used to the most, but over here is going to be lobby. And once we have established this as tank, lobby, or blue, whatever you want to call it, there's going to be the vent right there that goes towards P2. And then, of course, if you want to cut back towards their spawn, it's going to be the back lobby steps right here. And then we've kind of covered all this area of the map. And as we're looking around, we have one last area to show you, and you're going to be all the way over here. And this area right here that kind of goes to P1 is going to be called U. So their side U and our side U. So we call this U, going to statue. And then that is your callouts for 6-star. Let's move on to some hardpoint spawns. And now that we've gotten the callouts out of the way, let's move on to the hardpoint spawns. This is probably the most important part of this video and probably the one that you're watching for the most. And we're just going to run through P1 all the way through P5 spawns just so you can kind of understand this map a little bit more when you're playing rank play like the pros. Let's get into it. First off, you're going to have P1 right here. This is going to be this side over here, which is going to be the light side is what I like to call it. And then obviously this is lobby or tank or whatever you want to call it, the P2 side of this point right there. So this is the break off. I'm watching a CDL VOD at the moment, and you are going to see that the spawn points on P1 are going to be like over here by the P2 side, over here by the P4 side, and then over here where it's going to be the P3 side. Those are going to be your 3 main spawns that you see. Spawns in this game can always be a little bit weird, But as you kind of run through this and, let's let this hill play out, you're going to see like what I exactly am talking about. So you can see that number 8 died and he's spawning on this side of the P1 right now. So they're getting the P2 spawns, which is kind of obvious considering that the orange arrows over here are definitely spawning and coming from this side of the map. So you're not going to see too many crazy things when you were just watching this P1. The times it does get a little bit weird is when you start pushing out the right side. There are kind of like these 2 spawns on this P1, and you can see even here that when the spawn point is open on a P1, and this was even a thing last year in a lot of the videos that you have seen, you can see that certain things influence it, that we're not going super, in depth with that, but if the spawn is open, it is possible. And you can see that the orange arrows actually do get this P2 spawn as all of the purple arrows are pushed up, considering they're not really blocking any of these spawns. So right now, they're going to be able to see that they have that guy kind of spawning on a pinch. They pick up on that just because they play the game so much, and it kind of goes back to normal again. But as you can see right here, we're going to pause this for a second. You see that the 2 spawns on P1, you can get a parallel spawn on this one. Realistically speaking, the orange arrows probably should be spawning on the other side in your traditional Call of Duties, but Call of Duty today has no idea what their spawn systems half of the time, and there is a whole different just idea of how you have to read them. And since the secondary spawn is open, they're getting parallel spawns on this side, and also the hill is white, and when the hill is white, spawns can get a little bit weird too. That is something to keep in mind when you are playing Hardpoint at this level, and they are going to be getting these parallel spawns on this P1. So this can be a little bit weird because these 2 spawn here as this player spawns there, which is a very odd split spawn, and considering that the purple arrows are blocking like this P2 spawn, they can either be spawning on the P3 side of the map, or of course getting that secondary spawn over here. So that's where it can get weird on P1s. I feel like P1s in general lately, just throughout the years, have been a little bit odd specifically. So this new map, 6 Star, it's a beautiful map, but the spawns are a little bit wonky sometimes. But now that we're moving on to the P2, we're just going to let this one play out again. You're going to see that the main spawns on this P2, we're going to pause for a second, are going to be your front spawns and kind of your back spawns, but there are like, your closer back spawn and then your deeper back spawn. And that's kind of what you're going to see mainly when you were just playing. You're going to have your front P3 and light spawn, which you can see right there. The orange arrows are getting that. And then the purple arrows are getting your either closer back spawn or your deeper one, which this should be either what you call circle or what I like to call gold, which we just went over in the callouts section of this video. So you can see that purple is getting the gold spawn right now, and Vegas or the orange arrows are all getting that front spawn. And it's kind of just a flood to this P2 of where they're going to be spawning. And then, of course, towards that 30-second mark in those rotations, that's kind of where you want to understand what you want to do off the spawn if you want to rotate all the way to P3, because P3 is going to be right here. Or do you want to hit this old? And that's a bunch of stuff that you're going to have to learn on your own while playing the game more and more, and obviously just trying to figure out what the best situations, which you can obviously make, are. But now that we are moving on to this P3, you're going to have this exact portion here that the P3 is going to be, I would say, one of the bigger money hills on 6 Star, in my opinion. And the reason why, it's just a very hard hill to break, considering you have to either do this hop up, run up the wood stairs, or obviously try and pinch this back. And this back spawn is very hard to pinch through the lights cut because you can have a lot of different angles kind of holding on to it. So you're going to see here that as people die, you'll be spawning in the back of P3 primarily, or the front of P3 over here. So this is also a hill that for the most part kind of plays out, traditionally pretty normal. If you do block both spawns, they tend to get a middle spawn too, but you're not going to see that happen too often, considering just depending on how you're playing ranked. But for the most part, for the general idea of spawns for 6 Star, so it can just help your experience at rank play out, you can see that when you are coming off a spawn, you will know kind of where to call out and what you're doing. So you can see here that the purple arrows actually get around the orange arrows here and are able to kind of block this back spawn most of the time. And if they're blocking this, there's a high chance that you're going to be able to spawn them out from the back spawn. So purple gets around here, and you're going to see that the flip is actually in. And as soon as this guy solidifies that they have spawned in the back, he should definitely be commenting to his teammates that they should be getting that front shower spawn or the P2 spawn or whatever you want to call it. So another pretty easy hill when it comes to 6 Star and the general idea of what's going on. And the more you kind of watch this video, definitely make sure you're referencing back to this video before you play ranked if you really want to work on a map. And the reason why I'm saying that is when you're spawning here and they're spawning front showers, a big thing, or just a side tip for you guys, is how do you want to approach this? Like, what do you need to pick up, right? If it's 50 seconds left in a hill, most likely they're going to try and flood the front in ranked and try and make those plays to get into that hill pressure. But if they're obviously going to, last 30 seconds, they might try and do this cut across to get to P4 or rotate through the back this way, right? So you have to make sure you're keeping it in mind of exactly like what lanes you want to pick up when you spawn. That's like the most important thing in competitive Call of Duty, especially in ranked, is when I spawn, I look at my minimap with the information provided, what do I do? And you can always try and make a better play off of your spawn and map awareness, and that is why I'm making you this video. But with that being said, we're going to be moving on towards the P3, and you're going to see that right now the orange team has rotated to the P4, and depending on the kills, sometimes this purple team will be actually able to spawn here at the end of P3, because right now, technically, before this pops, like, if I were to back this up 4 seconds, before this pops, all the spawn points and all these kills that are going down, they will be getting a P3 spawn, or the spawns that are active on P3 and not P4. Even though it feels like you're on P4 right now, you are not. So any kill that goes down, number 7 and number 1 can either spawn here or here, depending on where the kills go and all that stuff. So late game rotations and late game communication is really important too to pick up. So for example, right now, if you were number 1 and you spawned right here instead of spawning right here, even though your team's coming from this area, you would think like, what the hell? Like, why'd I spawn here? You should be telling your teammates that, hey, one of these guys probably spawned behind you, someone turn around. So depending on spawns and stuff too, really good for communication if you have the, teammates with mics and stuff, or you're playing with a squad, or just in general, if you're playing on a solo queue and you spawn here instead of here, you should know that there is a guy on Old Hill, but you're going to be pinching these guys that kind of just came off spawn, and then there's also going to be people coming from there, which he can take this middle route too. So say if you were to kill this guy, and you would kill that guy there, you'd be able to obviously, spawn, maybe look middle and all that stuff too. There's a bunch of different things you can do, obviously, with the map awareness and spawn knowledge. So with that knowledge that I just have given you, let's move on to this P4. There are only 2 more hills to talk about on this map. And for the P4, you're going to see that you get this front long spawn a lot, or the light spawn. And you also can get the back spawn of the back P4. And just depending, it's kind of a deep spawn, so you have to keep this in mind. As if number 2 were to get pushed up, you can see that number 2 is trying to play for a block right now. If you get all pushed up here and all 4 of your teammates are bunched up here, even though you're technically not pushed out really deep long, there is a potential for a flip because that spawn is open like we talked about. So you're definitely going to have a chance of seeing some weird spawns on P4 when you were playing them. So again, communication is key and minimap awareness is key. There is no excuse for not understanding the spawns, even if you don't have communication sometimes, because you should always be trying to look at that minimap and get that information for yourself too. So this could help your solo queue experience too. So right now you can see spawns are pretty simple. Spawn in the back, they're spawning in the front. Kills aren't really going down right now. This has been more of a stalemate kind of hill where the purple team or the purple arrows are just in the hill, just trying to fight for obviously the time. And as this is winding down again, I cannot explain this enough. You can see that the purple team, even though they came from the front, end up started and spawn in the back, there is still a P4 spawn system activated right now. So there's a chance that they get those P4 spawns like we talked about. And that spawn is wide open while number 4 is kind of more pushed down on this side of the map. So there is going to be a weird flip. Now, do I think that's the most accurate stuff? No, but I'm not going to sit here and rant about how spawns could be better, because I've been trying for the last 4 years and we're still here, kind of confused on some of the logic behind them, but we're still, we're working at it. But either way, P4 spawns are up, the flips are in. It's definitely going to get a little bit weird. And then the last hill that we are going to talk about, as all these spawns kind of get odd, are going to be this P5. And this P5-1-2 is also pretty simple. So I think the P4 and the P1 are a little bit more on the confusing side for this map. The other hills are a little bit more understandable. Still can get weird, but for the most part, understandable. And for this P5, as you can see, the kills are going down as you are watching this. You're going to have that P3 area spawn, which is up top right here. And then, of course, you're going to have the other side, which is kind of makes sense, which is going to be the P2 area of the map. Just back showers, back P2, back gold, and, of course, just back this way. So, as you can see, the kills go down, even though orange is kind of pushed up and just like, trying to spawn kill. On the P5, it's a little bit harder to flip, just the way the flow of the map kind of goes, and you can kind of push them out deeper and, really punish teams on this P5 while you're obviously in the water hill. And yeah, that's really it. You can see that these spawns are coming in. There's not too much else to explain. Hopefully this kind of helps you out when it just comes to the general idea of just hardpoint and spawns. And yeah, that is going to be it for the 6-star map guide. You now have your callouts. So if you're playing search and destroy, you know what to call out. You now have the callouts for hardpoint, and now you can understand the hardpoint spawns just a little bit more. So make sure you reference this video before you play some ranked. Hopefully it helps you get better at the map and enjoy your experience just a little bit more. And as always, it's been your boy Crowder, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.